One more time. Okay, so they don't have the trait, they don't have the disease, and hold on, I just hit record, so I'm going to backtrack real quick. All right, square means male, circle means female. Completely shaded in means that person has the trait, they show it, they have the disease, they are showing symptoms of the disease. If it's not shaded in at all, that means not only do they not carry the trait at all, but they're not going to show that disease. What if it's shaded in halfway? Okay, if it's shaded in halfway, they're a carrier for it. Are they going to show the trait or show the disease? If you're a carrier, you usually don't know that you're a carrier unless you've had genetics done to see that you've got that allele. You're not going to show that trait. You're not going to show that allele. So carriers don't show any of the symptoms for the most part. It's a little bit of a lie, but that's okay for right now. We're good with that. Okay, so for this Punnett square right here, we know that both mom and dad are carriers for the trait, and we see that their first child, their firstborn son, has the trait. And 223 will go through this stuff. If you need to take notes over it, what all this stuff means. So I have a Roman numeral number 1, number 2, number 3, which represents generations. Then in Roman numeral number 2, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So this represents the children of these two parents, and it actually shows them in order. So this is the oldest, this is the middle child, this is the youngest child. So it does make a difference. Now, if all we're doing is throwing things on a pedigree to show inheritance, it doesn't matter. You'll just label it and put them on there however. But, for example, in 223, they're having you do Kai, his family's pedigree for NF1. And they will tell you whether it's an older brother, younger brother, sister, whatever. So it does need to go in a particular order. What does the line in between two shapes mean? Okay, so this is indicating either married or mating, if we're talking about animals, cross-pollination, if we're talking about plants. So if there is no line in between them, we're not connected by marriage. This bracket shows the children that come from that marriage. This child is not part of that bracket, so this child is not one of their biological children. This is one of their biological children. This line right here represents that these two individuals are married. This shows that this child belongs to those two. With me so far? Is this stuff familiar? Have you heard it before? Okay, like I said, 223 will go over those things, and it talks about a little bit more. So you can go back through there and add any notes that you need to your course file. Okay, so let's say that this trait is not sex-linked. So because it's not on the sex chromosomes, what chromosomes is it on? This is the autosomal chromosome. So this trait is going to be autosomal. And you cannot have a dominant trait with people that are carriers. If it's a dominant allele, it's going to show up so long as even one of them is there. So this has to be recessive. So this is an autosomal recessive trait in this family. Some pedigrees, when it's autosomal, will not show whether or not the parents are carriers, because shaded in means you show the trait, not shaded in means you don't show the trait. So some pedigrees don't do the half shaded in thing. You just have to kind of figure out that it's autosomal recessive and that these people must be carriers based on their children. All right, so let's use, I used T's, so we'll go ahead and use T's. So what does a genotype for number 1 have to be if we see how it's shaded in? Okay, and so how many letters are we going to use? 2 letters for a genotype, and so what are my 2 letters going to be? Capital or lowercase? Okay, so I'm going to have 1 capital and 1 lowercase. What's going to be the genotype for mom? What's the genotype for number 1? Why does it have to be 2 little t's and not 2 big t's? It's a recessive disease. So this person has the disease. They're showing the symptoms. But because it's a recessive illness, they have 2 lowercase t's. So this lowercase t represents the shaded part. This capital T represents the unshaded part. But we don't write it lowercase capital. We don't write it that way. Okay? Middle daughter. Could be. Is there anything else it could be? Oops, that was stupid. It could be either one of those, because when I look at the parents, Dad could have given this child a capital T, and Mom could have given this child a capital T. So that's possible for the child's genotype to be capital, capital. Dad could have given a capital T, Mom could have given a lowercase, or Mom gives capital, Dad gives lowercase, so that's possible. But understand, and don't change yours, I'm just going to show you, understand that it is entirely possible that we don't have a choice between these two. Let's say that Dad's capital, capital, and Mom's lowercase, lowercase. Can I have a capital T for this individual? Dad has to give one, Mom has to give one. You have to get one from each. I can't get a capital T from both. I could have this. Could I have this for this child? Dad has to give a capital T. That's all he has. So it would have to be heterozygous. All right, so let's go back to what this actually is. Bloop, bloop. Okay, so baby brother. What could the baby brother's genotypes be? Okay. All right, so now you've got to do some deductive reasoning for these. We don't know what the wife's genotype is. We just know that she doesn't show the disease. We don't know what the kid's genotype is. We just know that the kid doesn't show the disease. So could I have the wife to be capital T, capital T? I could. Could I have the wife be capital T, lowercase t? I could. Could the child's genotype be lowercase t, lowercase t? Why not? This is a recessive trait, and so it's not going to be lowercase, lowercase, because if it was both lowercase, then the child would show it. So this child could also be capital, capital, whoops, capital, lowercase. I don't know why I keep doing that. We don't know, and that's okay, but these are reasonable inferences for that pedigree. How are we so far? Any questions about this? All right, the next one I want to look at. Let's look at this one. Oops, I need to forward. Anything that stands out to you just looking at this pedigree? Both of the parents don't have the disease. We don't know if they're white or not. They don't have the disease. It doesn't show the half-shaded carrier. Okay, so the parents don't have it, but it's showing a child that has it. So what do we know has to be the case for the parents? We know that they have to be, even though it's not shaded in, they have to be carriers. They have to be carriers because they have a child that has the disease. So is this disease going to be a dominant or recessive disease? Okay, so I know that this is recessive. What I don't know is I don't know if it's autosomal recessive or sex-linked recessive. So let's do the easy part first and see if it could be autosomal recessive. So autosomal is everything besides the sex chromosomes. Sex chromosomes are the XX, XY. Okay, so in order for it to be recessive autosomal, what does Dad's genotype have to be? And Mom? Because this child has to be But you can't just say TT. Okay? So what could this child be? Could be either one of those. What could this child be? Okay. What does this child have to be? What does this individual have to be? Can this individual be big T, big T? Why not? Yes. Because they have to give something to who? What do they have to give to the kid? So this individual cannot be capital T, capital T. Cannot. Because they have a child that has the recessive disorder. And in order to have the recessive disorder, this child has to be lowercase, lowercase. They can only get one lowercase from mom, has to get the other lowercase from dad. So dad cannot be capital lowercase. The only thing dad could be is capital. Dad can't be capital, capital. The only thing dad can be is capital lowercase. All right, so what does this individual have to be? Has to be. Can't be big T, because mom doesn't have a big T to give. What does this individual have to be? Okay, so it's possible that this is autosomal. But now we've got to run through and see if it's possible that it could be sex-linked. So you can leave your stuff on there. I got to erase mine because I don't have room. Okay? So in order for it to be sex-linked, it has to involve the X chromosomes and the Y chromosomes. Oh, well, that's not helpful at all now, is it? Okay, so let's just do this. X, Y, X, X. Okay, so we know for sure this is a recessive trait. It has to be recessive because it pops up out of nowhere. That is a huge clue that it is a recessive trait. If you've got family members, nobody, bam, somebody has it. That tells you it has to be recessive because it's being dominated, it's being hidden by the dominant allele. Okay, so we know it's recessive. So, dad, sex-linked recessive, dad only has one allele to give because the rest of it's on that part of the Y chromosome that, where the X chromosome, the DNA is not at. So does dad have a capital T or a lowercase t? He can only have one allele. It's only going to be one letter on the X. So is he going to have a capital or lowercase? He can't have two alleles. This is sex-linked. He's only got one X chromosome, so he's only got one allele. If he's little t, it's a recessive disease. It's shaded in. So what does it have to be? It's not big T, it's just big T, because if it's sex-linked, it's only on the X chromosomes. So for males, things that are sex-linked, the allele that they have is the allele that they show. They don't have another one to dominate. So since he doesn't have the disease, he has to be X big TY, has to be. Okay? What does mom have to be? Or what could she be? Okay, so just based on this, mom could be either one of those. Based on their children, which one does mom have to be? Mom can't be big T, big T. The only thing that dad can donate to his son is the Y chromosome. So that's a boy, that's what he got from dad. If this is mom's genotype, he can't have the disease because mom has two big T's. Do you see why that genotype is impossible for mom to have? Do you see why it has to be this one? Because mom could donate one of these, but we know he has the disease, so that's where he's going to get that recessive allele from. What does this child have to be? It's a boy, so it's just one. What does this one have to be? What does this person have to be? With me so far? So this one's recessive. This is sex-linked. Mom has 2 X's. They both have to be recessive for her to show the trait. The only thing that dad can give to a daughter is an X chromosome. Mom can give either one of these, but this is the only thing dad can give. So if that's the only thing dad can give, this kid's got the disease. Is this a sex-linked trait? Does that work out? It doesn't work out. So this cannot be sex-linked recessive. It has to be autosomal. Because when we did the autosomal chromosomes, we can run through the whole pedigree. But when we try to do it with sex-linked, this is the reason why it cannot be sex-linked. Because they have a child that has that disorder. And so it's impossible for it to be sex-linked because dad has to give a lowercase t, and he doesn't have one to give. So a big clue as to whether or not something's recessive, first of all, if they've got it shaded halfway in, it's going to be recessive because you can't be a carrier with a dominant disease. The second clue that it's recessive is if they show up with the disease out of nowhere. So bam, kids have the disease and none of the parents, grandparents have it. It's got to be recessive. It has to have been hidden in there. Then to find out if it's autosomal or sex-linked, run it through and see if it works. Autosomal, all we have to worry about are the 2 letters. Sex-linked, you have to apply X's and Y's. If you need to, you can do a Punnett square. Whoopsies. If you need to, you can do a Punnett square for those 2 individuals. So I've got my Punnett square. There. That'll work. So dad, mom, and then fill it in. That'll give you the possibility, if you can't, just eyeball it. By the time you get done with Punnett squares and pedigrees, you probably won't have to do these. But now that's a female, no disease. That's a female carrier, but no disease. There's a male no disease, I'm sorry. Here's a male that has the disease. So that shows us that it is possible to have those 2 individuals on the top because you're going to get what you show you're going to get down at the bottom. Same thing for this stuff down here. You could take those 2 individuals and run a Punnett square and see is that possible. How are we doing so far? All right. I want you, and I suggest pencil, I want you to run through this one. I want you to tell me, is this trait dominant or recessive, autosomal, or sex-linked? So I know that it's most likely not a recessive trait, not 100% yet, but I know it's most likely not a recessive trait because I don't see the half shaded in ones for carriers, and it doesn't just show up out of nowhere. I have a person in each generation that has that trait, so to me, it seems likely that it's dominant. So I'm going to run with that and see if that works. Okay, so if the trait is dominant, what does 1-1, what does this male have to be? If it's a dominant trait, 1-1 has to be little t, little t. And hang on before you erase anything. Hold on, let's run through this. Hold on. Because we don't know if it's a dominant trait yet or not. Let's find out. If it's a dominant trait, what could number 2 be? 1, 2 could be what? Right. We can't just say TT. You got to make sure you tell me which one. So let's see if we can knock either one of those out if this is a dominant trait. So if this is a dominant trait, could mom be capital, capital based on her kids? Why not? One of her kids doesn't have the trait. What does this child have to be? What does 2-2 have to be? This child has to be little t, little t. So mom cannot be big T, because this child had to get a little t from each parent. So that has to be what mom is. What could number 1 be? Could 2-1 be capital T, capital T? Doesn't have another capital T to get. Dad has to give a lowercase t. This person is, if it's a dominant trait and they're showing the trait, has to get the dominant allele from somebody. Okay, number 3. What's number 3's genotype? 2-3, big T, little t. Can 2-3 be big T, big T? Can't be big T, big T because you have to get a lowercase t. All right, so without worrying about this, for number 4, what could number 4's genotypes be? Okay, so 2-4 could be big T, little t. 2-4 could be big T so far. Which one am I going to knock off? Why am I going to knock off big T, big T? And so what does 3-2 have to be? This person can be what? 3-1 could be big T, little t. 3-1 could also be, could that be big T this time? I can get a big T from mom and a big T from dad. So this could be dominant trait, and with this, what we did, is this sex-linked or is this autosomal? How do we know it's autosomal and not sex-linked? What do we see when it's autosomal? Or what do we see when it's sex-linked? What do we have to have? Do we have X's and Y's? No. So this could be autosomal dominant. Hey, yeah, come on in and come just right over there. All right, if you haven't already, run through and see if it's possible that it's a sex-linked trait, and I'll be right back. Morning. Yeah, come on in. All right, this is Biomed, Biomed 1. Biomed program is either a 2 or 3 year program. Now we do have 3-year students. We are actually one of the programs that can take in sophomores, and that's why our program has expanded to be a 3-year program. If you like science, especially if you like biology type science, then this is probably a program that you'd be interested in learning more about. We do tons of science, but it's life science. It's not like engineering or electrical or anything like that. In Biomed 1, we have a little bit of forensics, a little bit of career exploration. We have lots of human anatomy, organ systems. We have AP biology that you'll take throughout the entire year. We have lots of different things that will help you if you're interested in pursuing a biomed career in the future. That will help you really stand out. We have lots of really great technology that you just can't get at your home schools. And I'm from public schools, so I know all about that. So this is really great that we can offer that. Right now, they're looking at cytogenetics, which is like this little board right here. So they're looking to see how diseases can be passed on through generations, looking at chromosomal abnormalities and things like that. And it's a rigorous class, but if you're interested in science, then make sure that you come back and see us in January and we can give you a little bit more information. I know that's a really short, these ones in November are really short just so you can get an idea, but if you are a freshman, you can come do biomed here at Kaimashi Tech when you're a sophomore. Did you guys have any questions for me? All right. Thank you. Yep. All right, so did you run it through? No. Okay, so we're still thinking dominant trait. This is a square. This represents male. What are the 2 letters? Female, what are the 2 letters? All right. So if it's a dominant trait, we've already said that mom can't be capital, right? Okay, so what does mom have to be? Has to be. We've already worked that through, so we know it has to be. What's dad? He only has 1 allele, so is his a capital or a lowercase? Has to be because he doesn't show the trait. If this is a dominant trait, he's not showing it, and he has a child that doesn't have it. What does this individual have to be? Give me all the letters. What is this individual? Why not X big T big T? Dad has to give one of the X chromosomes to the daughter. Mom has to give one of the X chromosomes to the daughter. Has the trait, so we have to have one big T, one little t. What's number 3? 2, 3. Give me XXXY first. Okay. Is this X big T or X little t? Has to be, because he's showing the trait. Okay, so XX or XY for 2, 4. Capital, 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 lowercase. Okay. So this individual, XX or XY. Capital, 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 lowercase. Is that the only thing that we can? It could be, because this time Dad could give a big T and Mom could give a big T. So either one of those genotypes work. What does this have to be? 3, 2? So does it work for a dominant sex-linked? Does it work for a dominant autosomal? Okay, all right, hang on. Don't go anywhere. Either one of those work. So let's do recessive. So if it's recessive, this could be capital lowercase or capital capital. How come? Okay. And so you run it through, you see that it doesn't work recessive, then you know you can knock that off. And if it doesn't work recessive for autosomal, it's not going to work recessive for sex-linked. So this one could be, it has to be autosomal, or I'm sorry, no, it has to be dominant. It has to be dominant. Has to be dominant. And it could be either autosomal or sex-linked. You would need more information about the trait. Okay, so those should eventually go into your PBS course file. So that's what 223 deals with, is pedigrees, and like I said, it has more information, and it goes back and tells you shapes and lines and connectors, blah, 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 what all that stuff means. So you can swing back around to that and make sure that you add any notes that you need to add to that. So right now, the chain of events, what you should be working on is 222. This is the last day for that. I think everybody or almost everybody has gotten their cases taken care of. Once you finish with 222, then I would suggest go ahead and work on 223. That shouldn't take you very long. You are going to run through 223, pedigree stuff, add any notes that you need, and then it's going to ask you to make 2 pedigrees for Kai's family based on 2 different scenarios. When you do that, you do need Kai's cytogenetics report, his testing report, because that's going to give you information to help you make his pedigrees. That's up here on the front table. When you get through with that, you can swing back around, Chapter 9, Chapter 10, AP Biology. But if you happen to be ahead, I've got a couple of students in the afternoon that actually have mastering done for 9 and 10, and they're ready for 223.